Welcome to today's episode of Feeding the Wolf of Possibilities. And today we're exploring the possibilities of getting out of significance with sexy time, or why X-Men make great lovers. And as my guide, I've invited Sul Wynne-Jones, a brilliant X-Men class facilitator who grew up as an undiagnosed Asperger's and autistic child in Australia, where he still resides with his partner Tiffany and their wonderfully different child, Silas. Let's start with this whole X-Men thing. What is that? And who are the X-Men?
Yeah, the X-Men are the different ones. They're the ones that tend to not fit in. They're the ones that are like, the round peg trying to fit into the square hole, but it never quite works. And basically a lot of them have been diagnosed with disabilities such as ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism. But those are just really labels. So X-Men are really very undefined creatures. And what I've found with working with a lot of X-Men who think that there's something wrong with them is that they actually have these capacities to basically use their difference to create their life in a really different way. So yeah, that's what the X-Men is about.
You've been exploring this in all kinds of different ways. And a while ago, you did a Facebook Live called How to Be Better in Bed, which really intrigued me and also inspired this podcast. And how did you get the idea to do that? And how did it go? Did people receive it?
Yeah, so it was actually received really well. It was like a lot of things that at the time that I was saying and talking about where I'm like, should I be talking to people about this? It was not like it was like R-rated basically. But no, we had a lot of fun. And I think for me, it's just this topic where like if I was a teenager and I could have had a conversation like that, I would have been so grateful. I think most teenagers grow up with probably at least some part of their sex education, being like pornography, and, the information that's available on the internet is just a little bit lacking in terms of, what's actually truly possible with, enjoying your body and, enjoying someone else's body and basically just like having fun. So.
Well, it actually leads into one of the things that I am really aware of is that we don't really talk about sex. Like sex is one of like real, like how to sex. We talk about sex as we would like to have it or who is having it, but we don't talk about the how to, like, how are you good in bed and what works for you? It's kind of like this taboo subject that we're supposed to just know. So how did you find out that you are good in bed? How did you find out how to be in bed, basically?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's always, like you said, like it's that, those unspoken subjects that are often like what I'm most curious about. And so for me, I really started that, I guess I'd call it like an education with looking at some books from Access Consciousness. So one of them is called The Gentleman's Club. The other one that I read is Salon de Femmes. And then there's also a book called Sex is Not a Four-Letter Word, but Relationship Oftentimes Is. And from all of those books, there's parts and pieces in those books that really go into like, what it is to be with your body as a woman, what it is to be with your body as a man, and then how can you basically explore each other's bodies and really, get the greatest possibilities that are available. So that's where I started. And I've also done a bit of my own research and, so yeah, it's just been something that I've always been interested in. So yeah.
So like a self-education.
Yes, exactly. It's, the best home play you're ever going to have, basically.
So if somebody is listening to this, what kind of tips do you have? Where could they start exploring this?
I would just say, begin with you and, find out what it is that's actually fun for you. And, a lot of people haven't really allowed themselves even to, for example, just explore their own body. So, like just find some time, maybe get naked, jump into bed and, just explore, like where does your body like to be touched? Where do you, like what do you enjoy? And what, some people like different things at different times. And it's like also, what is it that you actually enjoy? What does your body enjoy? And I think when you get a little bit more in touch with that, then you tend to have a easier time, having fun with a lover.
When you started to explore this, did it change the way you were having sex?
Yeah, for sure. Like, for example, one of the things that, Gary Douglas says in the Gentleman's Club is, he's like, look, like when you're like masturbating, you need to go slow. And it's like every time you feel like you're about to, ejaculate, you should expand out. And basically, like when you do that, it's basically like increasing the intensity of the, I guess, feeling in your body. And so you can actually, like, with that, it's like you actually start to access a different like a different energetic system within your body. And so it's kind of amazing. I never knew that, and it was like, okay, wow, there's like this whole other thing to play with and explore. So yeah, that's one thing I would recommend to play with as well.
So if you're a woman, would that work in the same way?
Yeah, exactly. And like just that thing of like going slow, like I think a lot of us have also been taught that, if we're like, masturbating or whatever, we've got to be quick and get it over and done with so someone doesn't walk in, or, like as kids, things like that. And it's been, like a bit of a like a secretive energy that we have to hide. But yeah, what if you just actually, took your time, and, you might actually find that you can create more pleasure for you and your body in that way. So,
How long do you take for masturbating?
well, it depends, it's also like sex for me. Sometimes it's like, oh, I would just like to have a quickie, or sometimes it's like, okay, I've got lots of time and, I can really enjoy myself. But, I would say like allow yourself like at least half an hour to an hour to really play. And it's like, it includes your whole body. You might want to start by, really connecting to all the different parts of your body, like from your feet all the way to your fingertips, and, just really get in touch with every single part of your body, and, go from there.
So you were talking about finding and exploring different energetic systems with this expansion instead of going to orgasm straight away. So could you talk a bit more about that? What is that for you?
Well, I mean, so like I said, I didn't really know about this before I read it in the Gentleman's Club. And there's something called the galvanic response, which is basically if you run your fingers like over your arm, and you basically pull energy up through the arm above your hand, you'll notice that your hairs will start to rise towards your hand. So that's actually something that you can use like all over the body. And that's something that will really kind of like, I guess, activate that, like the bodies really enjoy that energy. And so that's something that you can use to sort of get in the mood, I guess, and get connected to the bodies. But so like when that's occurring with your body, what it feels like is basically like my whole body is like vibrating. So it's like all the molecules in my body are like going like kind of bouncing. And so that's what it feels like for me. But I think it would be different for different people. But I remember just being like it's almost like so much like, that you don't really, it's like it's hard to walk and things like that afterwards for a little while. And your whole body is just, it's more of an energized energy than what I guess mostly I'd experienced with orgasm. It was kind of like, being almost feeling like you were sort of electric in a way, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sounds very intriguing again. With this being an autistic or an X-Men or Asperger person, do you find that is in any way helpful when exploring these kind of things?
I would say the main thing with that is like for most X-Men, the loudest thing in their world tends to be energy, and bodies are very energetic. And so if you have like a heightened awareness of energy, you tend to be able to also like be able to follow that with a little bit more sort of ease, I guess, because you can't avoid it. And so if your body is talking to another body on this sort of energetic level, it's like there's a lot of receiving that can be available that's not about, not about the words or, what someone is sort of like trying to pretend or, like there's a lot of pretense in sex and copulation, but from an energetic space, there's something really different available when I guess you're both willing to be out of control and just allow the energy to kind of lead the interaction.
So that sense of congruency that occurs with bodies during sex, that is energetic.
Yeah. And I guess it's almost like you also receive a lot of pleasure from like when you follow the energy with someone's body, you also receive that pleasure if it's something that that works for them and you can sense it. So it's kind of like it's like a bonus.
It sounds a little bit like one of my favorite TV series called Sense8. There are some scenes in there where they're like part of each other's orgasms. No, not orgasms, but they are part of each other's orgasm, but they're also part of each other's sexual adventures by being so connected. So it sounds a little bit like that is what you're describing sex could be like.
Yeah, I get that there's so much like actually available with it that we haven't even discovered. And I always find with like movies and TV shows that if someone can imagine it, then it's probably possible, and we just haven't explored it yet really to its sort of full extent. So yeah, I get it's really like we're scratching the surface of what's possible.
So if we go back to that being better in bed telecall that you did, what kind of questions did you get? What did people want to know about?
To be honest, I think probably people really wanted to know a little bit more about like a lot of people have I guess considerations about like themselves in terms of sex and in terms of what they will sort of allow themselves to explore. So that's something that comes up a lot for people. And I think it's also that place of like where if you've got a judgment of yourself in regards to, like sex and copulation, it's quite hard to receive in that area because it kind of is like it's like a barrier basically to receiving. So I think, just that thing of even allowing yourself to find out what works for you is a really great place to start, because you can lower your walls and barriers, and you don't have to be, it's just you and your body basically, and whatever you'd like to choose. So that was something that came up quite a lot. And also, most people, when you talk about sex, they also like to talk about relationship. But I was very keen on not making it about relationship so much. So, it was also actually like literally talking through, how can you have more enjoyment masturbating? How can you have more enjoyment, copulating? And basically like with yourself, with your partner, and what your partner can also do with you that's fun. So I wanted to make it quite practical so people actually had something to also go back and like use in their life.
So when you're talking about this, it also comes up, you had a very catchy title, How to Get Better, but this being good or bad in bed. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's also where the judgment comes from. We want to or think we need to be good in some kind of way in bed, but what is good and what is bad?
There's so many different things that different people like, and so it's like you can't really say what's like good or bad, but I think you can be aware of what works and what doesn't work with yourself and with someone else. And so I think that's that's the best place to start, but not from a place of like, I won't try this or I won't explore this, but really, like we were talking about, if you're aware of the energy, you're going to know when something is not working for someone else or for yourself. And that it's okay to speak up and say, hey, can we do something different, or this doesn't work for me, or that feels great, or so I think just being like, actually, a little bit vulnerable with it, in terms of like, you don't have to prove anything with sex. It's like, it should be about having fun, and it should be about enjoyment. So like, let's shoot for that, and go from there.
One of the things that Dane here, one of the co-creators of Access Consciousness, he often says that as long as we're flirting and we're playing with the energies and we're like looking at the possibility of having sex, everything is usually fun and energetic and playful. And as soon as you actually take your clothes off and you get into bed, you go into a whole different, nearly persona of yourself, and then you're like having sex. So could you talk a little bit about that and what it is that creates that? Why is it easier as long as it's not the actual copulation part?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that, but I guess I know some things that have broken that. It's like, if you've ever been, having sex with someone and then they burst out laughing, or like, it's like, it just kind of breaks that sort of seriousness of it. And I think the thing is, talking actually is one of the things that also can like remove some of that seriousness and that significant, like, it's okay to just have a chat, or like, and it doesn't have to be this kind of like, now it's sex time sort of a thing, like, it can become like part of your life, where you can talk about it while you're having it, you can talk about it other times. It's like, it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be this sort of sex only zone and then that's it. It's like, when you come out of it, it's you don't talk about it, you don't explore it. It's sort of like, that's for me what I've found as well. It's way easier to have fun and be yourself if you're willing to kind of like break down those walls and barriers between those two things.
And it's really like you're saying, if you're willing to address the fact, even that is occurring, then you're actually breaking the spell of the significance of the sexy time.
Yes. I like how you put that, the significance of the sexy time. Yeah.
So if you were talking to a teenager, and this come up a little bit already, but if you were talking to a teenager today who have endless resources on internet and on YouTube or whatever to find out about sex that way, what advice would you give them? Where would they find the resources that actually could help them?
It's a really great question. I actually remember something that, when my mum was having the sort of, so I was like, my mum was a single mum, so it didn't really have like my dad to go to ask questions about this. And I wasn't asking my mum questions, but she decided she had to have like the birds and the bees sort of talk with me. And, one of the things that she said is like, that pornography is not real. And I know that's quite obvious, but it really stuck with me, because I think for a lot of people, like, if that's what they're using as a reference for sex, it's like, it's a created like reality, basically. And so it's not a really great place to start for what you might like to create your your sexual reality based on. So I would say, that thing of like, basically going slow with yourself and exploring your body, I would say definitely to start there. I haven't found very much good information on how to be better in bed on the internet. So I would recommend those books that I mentioned as well. They're really, really great books.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things that I get from our conversation here is even possibly finding friends that you can actually talk to about sex. So it doesn't become this hidden area that you're just supposed to know without ever learning about.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely, I didn't so much have that as like as a teenager, but I'd say in my early like adulthood, I had more people that I could actually talk about that with, because I don't know, it was just a easier conversation to have. And I think as well, just being willing to explore and go outside of your comfort zone, because you know that's also part of having sex. It's not always gonna, it's gonna be at times like a little bit confronting for you probably, and there's gonna be things that come up where you're like, oh, I don't know if I like that, or but that's all part of it too. And I think there's so much available as well, so there's so much to explore, and just allow yourself to explore.
It's like this area that's available for us to play in, and that we often avoid just because of, like you're saying, all the judgments or all the insecurity and everything. So you're inviting us to come and play in a new space.
I got a lot out of it too, because it's like, it's, I guess, when you start to have these conversations as well, like I guess you create a different energy around it. And I think you start to be an invitation to different possibilities as well.
So if anybody would like to listen to all the very practical and hands-on advice you gave in your in Zoom, Facebook Live, whatever we call it, is that available somewhere?
It is. It's definitely not on Facebook Live because it was R-rated for sure. But yeah, it's called Being Better in Bed, and you can find it at sulwynne-jones.com.
We'll put the link also under this podcast on the page if you really would like to know what was actually discussed on that call. Thank you so much, Sul, for coming on and diving into this whole huge, vast subject with us today. I think we may need a part 2 of this in the future. And what I get from this conversation is that really, if more people had more sex in the way that you invite them to, the world would really be a much happier place.